Hey everyone, well it's Kim's Tectonic here. We're going to be working on a furnace blower today. I recommend if you have your furnace changed out, don't throw them away because they're useful for some things, and I'll kind of explain to you why you should save them. Well, for starters, take a little toothbrush or whatever you can get to fit in between the fins. This don't work very well. This works a lot better, but I pretty much wore it out doing this job. But you got to stick it in between every fin and crisscross, and clean all the crud out of every fin. That, my folks, will give you a lot more CFM out of this blower, which is if you happen to have your furnace and somebody comes out and checks it for a check and clean, that never gets done unless you have somebody come out and pull the blower, take it outside. I've washed them before with the hose, but you got to be careful of the motor. It's an electric motor, so it's hard to do it with water unless you it's time consuming if you want to pull the whole squirrel cage, pull the motor, and that's why most of your companies or your check and clean companies won't do this. Trust me. They say, oh yeah, I checked and cleaned your furnace, but 99% of the time they'll never clean these fins on the blower, and they just build up and build up with crud, I'm telling you, and then over time you don't get the airflow that you really need. So with that being said, like I went through here and did it all, there's plenty in here to blow out, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Now I've already got this wired in, and I'll show you that later. But after I've cleaned it all, one probably quick way is to just plug it in. And you can see it. I don't know if you can see it all, but and it's going to run slow. So in order to speed it up, when it's a electric direct drive motor without a pulley, hold some air, hold a piece of metal or something in front of it. All right, well, she's got it all cleaned out, and I was going to try to show you the amp draw, which I have it hooked up with an alligator clip. Well, that's doing in there, but with your blue is normally your medium, black is normally your high, white is your common, and if you have a red, then that's usually low speed. So if you're going to hook it up to something, and make sure that this, if you're not using a speed, make sure it's not it's wire nutted or not going to make contact with metal or nothing, because it could produce electricity while it's running. So, but anyways, what I was going to try to explain was when you do hook this up, which you can see, it's dragging, not going to run fast, and it's going to overheat because it's going to draw way too many amps. And the reason for that is because this is wide open, and when it's in a furnace, it's got restriction from your heat exchanger and stuff like that. So there is stuff that it has to blow past, so there's a restriction there. So if you're going to use this outside of a furnace, then you want to make sure you build yourself a plate, which I did, and I just double halved all the corners so it wouldn't be sharp, and then you just mount it on here, and it'd take about half, I'd say about half of the space up. You do about half, you'll be doing good. So with that being said, you can see what I'm talking about. If we do this, for instance, like to show you, for example, running slow. So if you restrict the income, you get the same thing. lot more. Take that off, you lose it. Put this on, it's gonna blow crazy. That's gonna blow you away. When you take that off, it's gonna slow right down. Unless you got some kind of restriction. And I got it on high speed. So we'll go ahead and mount this real quick. So I made myself double half all the way around so there's no sharp edges. And I left myself about a half opening. It should be enough to keep it from making the internal, what'll happen, the internal overload of the motor will kick out because it'll get too hot because you're drawing too many amps and it'll overheat. So let's try it with that on there. No sharp edges. Pretty good. And then you want to probably file these down, and I clip these edges down here so there's no sharp edges. And you want to get creative, build yourself a little stand to set it on, and probably for safety, if you got critters or anything that you don't want to get in there, make yourself a screen for this side, and obviously maybe the motor too. That depends on your situation, but as you can see, it's working pretty good. Whoa, yeah, a lot of air coming out of it. So, hey, you got a furnace blower, you crank the air. Works great for drying carpet instead of renting one of them things to dry your carpet. Build a little stand for it. And so this motor happens to be one of them ones that's color coded, which is red, yellow, blue, and black. So they've got blue plugged into blue, black plugged into black. Now, and white, of course, common over here. Now, if you needed 2 more speeds, this motor has it. Red is capped off, which is low speed. And then you have yellow, which is probably medium low, or so whatever, you know. Usually blue is medium, so if you have a weird color in between medium and low, probably medium low or something. But and you always got to make sure your capacitor is good. You can read the specs on the motor to find out what size capacitor it needs. A lot of times a motor will be bad just because the capacitor is no good. And a lot of times you'll find if you spin the wheel and it'll run, then it's definitely the capacitor, because the capacitors are mainly for start. And in this case, this one's a 10 UF 370. So if that's helpful, I don't know, but I've pulled out a lot of these in my time. I worked for HVAC all my life, and every furnace we took out and put in a new one. I always kept a lot of these, so God, I almost have 25 of them, and now I'm ready to start parting with them. But anyways, that's how these direct drives, they call them, work. If they're direct drive, you're gonna have to block them. Otherwise, they got otherwise they'll have this motor on top with a pulley drive, and the way to speed them up, you tighten a pulley. It's kind of like a bicycle. The more you turn the pulley in, the faster it'll go. The more you turn the pulley out, the slower it'll go. So just so you know, and on a pulley driven, one of them kind, you don't really need to block the airflow. Them don't matter. So anyways, this was helpful, but like I said, in here in this one, it was making noise when I started. So if you look inside here, that's why most of your service guys will never do this, because you got to loosen this set screw, and then you got to take all these motor mounts out. There's usually 3 of them all the way around, sometimes 4. See where I missed some dirt. But anyways, that won't be part of your check and clean. Trust me. I don't know of a company that, I guess maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that has ever pulled a blower on your furnace and said that, for part of your check and clean. They just won't do it because it's time consuming. For one, it costs you a fortune, and it's going to give you a few more CFMs. Your filter is the biggest problem, and the reason them blades get all clogged up is from not changing your filter regularly or keeping a filter in it, period. And the biggest thing people don't realize, if you don't keep a filter in your furnace, then if you have air conditioning, your A coil in the top of your plenum above your furnace will work as a filter, and then you have really big problems. Then that coil turns into a filter, and then you got more serious problems. So, long story short, keep your filter replaced and check it regularly, and hey, you probably won't have problems. And your blades won't get clogged up, and your A coil won't get clogged up. So, win two. So hey, I hope this was helpful. And if you have to change your furnace out, keep the furnace maybe, or keep the blower. It works for a lot of things. Alright, well, I'm out of here. I got other things to do. If you like it, like and subscribe. Catch you guys later.